Will Talking Points offer a class story? That is a good question. Currently, we do not have any plans to offer a class story, but we are always improving and adding new things to our system. So if there are features that you would like to get requested, I will show you in this tutorial as well how to request those features and make sure that our team knows what things you as an educator find valuable. One last time to reiterate for those last stragglers that were joining in, today's webinar will not be on how to get started. It is on tips and tricks and how to make the most of Talking Points. So if you have questions on how to sign up and how to add your students, we do ask that you join our webinar tomorrow on getting started, or view the 2 recordings that we've already made available for getting started. Today we'll be sharing tips and tricks from our educators on how to make the most of Talking Points, and we'll give some time at the end, that way you can all share with each other. We know that our resources are somewhat limited and we don't have all of the answers. We're not in the classroom or at your home school like you are now. So we know that all of you, I'm positive, have tips and tricks that you can share with each other. That way we're all successful in engaging our family members. Thanks so much. Wow, see lots of Washington, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Arkansas, all kinds of places. Okay, well, without further ado, thank you all so much for joining me. I am really looking forward to this session. Hopefully some of you have joined our previous webinars this week, but if you haven't, our webinars are something that we're trying out new and hoping that are going to be successful and that we're going to continue doing. So I am going to start sharing my screen. Great. Hopefully everyone can see this. If you can, send me a yes or a thumbs up in the chat. If you cannot, maybe send that in the chat as well. Great, thanks so much. Confirmed that everyone can see it. Great question on how to access the pre-recorded webinar sessions. I will go over that at the end. We do have a YouTube channel, and that's where all of those will be posted, but I'll also show you our Talking Points resources that we've been compiling through all of this crisis time from our community members. So making sure that that's all there. Great. Great. So this, as I'm sure all of you know at this point, is our Talking Points web application. We do have a mobile application that is viewable on your phones as well, and I will be going over how to do some of those same tips and tricks that I offer on the mobile later on in the session. But if you have any specific questions on tips and tricks that I'm showing, please add them again to the Q&A bucket. So the first tip and trick that we want to make sure teachers know about is our schedule message feature. Scheduling messages we feel is generally always really important, but especially now we know that all of you, just like myself, you can see my partner behind me and I'm in my living room, are struggling probably to draw boundaries, right? You're working at home, you're probably in the same space as where you sleep or eat, and really those lesson plans are probably going to be even more important at this time than they were when you were in the classroom. Scheduling messages can make that even more useful. If you're up at 5 a.m. but you don't think your families are, or if you stay up until 1 a.m. and you don't think your families are, you can make sure to schedule those messages to go out when other people will want to receive them and when families should be receiving them. In addition, you can schedule out as many messages as you want. So if you are doing your lesson planning on Sunday evening and you want to make sure that on Monday, families get a welcome to the week message with a task that they should complete, a Wednesday, a check-in on how that task or assignment went, and a Friday message on thank you for completing a great weekend, you can do that. So let's run through that right now. So to compose your message, I should have started from the beginning, but just to make sure, oh, what happened there? Great. To compose your message, you'll click this orange compose button in the top left, and that'll open your compose window here. The first step, obviously, in creating a message is to select who you want it to go to. So in this Mr. Newton's account, he has multiple classes with messages here. Some of them are smaller breakout reading groups, which we recommend doing as well. If you have any particular groups that are smaller that you want to target specifically, we can break those down into up to our 5-class limit. But for now, Mr. Newton is going to send this message to his period 1 class. So Sunday night, I am lesson planning and I want to send a message saying, welcome to a new week. This week, please have your child read a book twice. Have them write down any words that they have trouble with and send the list to me. This is a template that I think I'm probably going to be sending every week in my lesson planning. So I want to make sure to save this. That way I can quickly access it next week and send or schedule out the same message. So I'm going to click Save as Template, and you'll see that that comes right here to my saved templates. So since I already have that saved, I have it going to my period 1 class. I want to add this fun colored background to make sure that any families who are using the parent app can see it and have a little extra buzz there. And I am going to schedule this message. So I want this to go out for next week. So I'm going to schedule it for Monday, March 30th. And I want that to go out at around 8 a.m. That seems like time when children should probably start doing their classwork and families are probably thinking about the week to come. I verify next Monday at 8 a.m. and I'm going to schedule. Great, message is scheduled. And if I ever have any doubts, I can just go into here, the scheduled bucket, and verify that it's going from me to period 1 next week on Monday. Oh, I actually decided that I want them to read that book 3 times. Make sure that they get a lot of repetition in there and get all of the words down that they might be having trouble with. So I can go in and hit that edit button and say, have your child read that book 3 times. And I can save that. And now when it goes out next Monday, it's going to have that time. But I'm not done there. So I want to also send out a message on Wednesday to that same period 1 class saying, now that your child has read through their book and written down the words that they have trouble with, please have them make up 1 sentence for each word. Please send me a short video of them saying that sentence out loud. So Talking Points does allow for families and teachers on both ends to send pictures and videos. So on your end, you can add pictures and videos here by clicking Add Image or Video. And on families' end, they can do the same from just their phone. They can type it into their text message like normal. Or they can, if they're using the Talking Points for Parents app, they can add that similar to how you would put that into the app and send it over. So we have had a lot of teachers and educators saying that their lifesaver through this time has been having their families send them pictures and videos of them doing work. We've seen some really cute, precious pictures and videos coming into our Twitter. So if you ever need a morale boost, that's what I do. I scroll through our Twitter and see the amazing community members that we have that have been using Talking Points. So I want this to go out next Wednesday. Again, I'm going to click on the schedule feature. Wednesday, April 1st. Wow, April Fool's Day. Hopefully that they won't think that this is a joke. And again, I want that to go out at 8 a.m. We verify it, we schedule. And there it is. And lastly, I want to schedule one last message to all of the students in all of my classes. So I'm going to click everyone and say, Happy Friday. We made it to the weekend. Please take some time this weekend to rest and practice some self-care. Thank you so much for sending me your word lists and videos this week. I know that the weekend is something that we're all looking forward to. I personally have had a lot of trouble keeping track of what day it is since I've been working from home. But I do think it is good to really set those boundaries of the weekend and making sure that those are different and that when you're home, you're enjoying your time at home with your loved ones and with your family's loved ones. So definitely acknowledging that it's the weekend and that we made it through another great week of remote learning is something that I think families will very much appreciate. And schedule. I do see that some good questions have come in. As a reminder, if you can please use the Q&A bucket to send any questions, that would make it a lot easier for me to be able to answer them. They can record videos of themselves. It's not directly through Talking Points, but they can record a video essentially on their phone and then attach it. They do not need to use an email account to do so. All of this is through their phone numbers and through their cell phones. And in terms of a time limit for videos, there is not a direct time limit, but there is an attachment size limit. So because we do send videos through cell carriers often have restrictions on what can be sent through SMS text message. So the size limit here for videos is you can go to our Help Center and search for how can I send videos. You'll see that they must be in MP4 format and can only be a maximum of 5 megabytes. As my wonderful colleague Nancy said, that translates to roughly about a minute or so. We know that that's pretty short. Unfortunately, that is out of our control and is generated by cell carriers that we work with. But those little recordings, like having your child read a sentence, should not be more than a minute. And those will be easy for families to record and for you to digest as well. And can the same message be sent to multiple groups at one time? Absolutely. So in this case, the example that I used, I was just sending it to my period 1. But I actually decided that I want this to go to multiple of my classes. So I can click on period 1, and I can go back in and click on period 2 and period 3. And since this one is already scheduled, I can save it, and that will be updated. And the same thing happens when you click on the compose screen. You can decide, I want that to go to period 1 and Mr. Newton's class, and this one family, Sophie's family, who's not in either of those classes, I want them to receive it as well. And you can do that there. Parents not on the app, great question. Yes, so any families that are not on the app still obviously have the ability to send photos and videos from their phone. It might be a little bit different the way that it shows to them because it's not through an app as opposed to their phone, but just the way that you would respond to a friend or family member and send a picture, text, or a video or text message, they would be able to do the same with you. Is there any way to see the numbers and data on who has responded or opened your message? That's a great question, Marcos. And the short answer is yes. The long answer is not for everyone. So if you click on individual message threads here, you'll see that Joe Smith's family is using the parent app. We unfortunately only have the option to show read receipts for families who are using the app because cell carriers, again, don't provide us with that distinction for SMS text messages. So if families are using the Talking Points for Parent app, you'll be able to see that the message is sent and if the message has been read. In this case, this message has not been read, but if it had been read, it would turn a green color like this one and show you that it was read there. Great question. And thanks so much to Nancy and Aubrey for helping me answer questions. They are my lovely coworkers. Any suggestions for engaging family students who do not have a lot of support at home? Trying to think of ways to get parents into the habit of reading my communication every day. That is a great question, and I love your own suggestion, Jennifer. I was actually going to go over polls next, so I'm really glad you brought that up. So another feature that we do have that is very useful, I've seen school administrators and teachers alike use our polling function. So this polling function is really useful to have specific questions that are really easy for families to just click and answer to. If they don't have time to type a whole message out in response, they can either click and answer if they use the parent app, or they can type a 1 back or a 2 back for a response if they use SMS text messaging. So to compose a poll, it would be basically the same process as composing a regular message. You compose, you select your recipients, you ask your question, what was Jennifer's suggestion? Jennifer's suggestion was asking what their favorite food is. What is your child's favorite food? And you can send that out as a regular message and have them respond free, or if you want to make it a lot more simple for them and have them be able to just select a response, you can add a poll. So to add a poll, you'd click on this little button here in your compose screen. Type option 1, let's say pizza. I know a lot of kids love pizza. Option 2, burgers. Option 3, tacos. I love tacos. They're personally my favorite. I'm from Austin, Texas, so we are the home of Torchy's Tacos, and I cannot wait to go back home until I can get some. Option 4, I am going to say spaghetti. And option 5, fruits and veggies. I get a feeling not as many will choose that for now, but you know, might as well give it there. Option 6, chicken nuggets. And when families who receive SMS text messages receive this, they'll get, like when you schedule an appointment with your hairdresser or with your mechanic, and you get a text 1 to confirm and text 2 to cancel, they will get text 1 for pizza, text 2 for burgers, etc. And all of that will be translated into their home language. So they'll be able to respond and see the options there. We can schedule this poll out to go as well. I don't know if I want to send it right now at 10 a.m. Families might be busy. But if I wanted to send this out as a fun Friday message, I could schedule that for tomorrow again at 8 a.m. And there we go, it's scheduled. Let me see, what else do we have here? Great, so I already went over how to attach photos and videos, which are super helpful. One suggestion that we've seen from a lot of teachers also is, like I said earlier, having families send pictures of themselves. So I am going to go into my parent app, which I have. And type in a picture that this teacher can get. Give me 1 second. Great. So this class account has a student, Mr. Jose Lopez here, whose family has been sending pictures, and the teacher also followed up with a picture that he sent that he took of the child on the playground. My coworker Mark, who led our webinar yesterday, said something really great that stuck with me. That is, a lot of times, families are struggling. They're all at home. They're all trying to balance all of these things. And maybe some of them aren't super comfortable writing or receiving text messages, but a picture is something that speaks 1,000 words. So if you wanted to send out a picture of what you're doing today, and what you're sitting at your desk, or your dog, my dog is somewhere in the background right now, or your family, I'm sure families would appreciate that and be able to send a picture of themselves back. Let's see, any other questions? Can you attach a link to a website? Absolutely. So I want to attach the link to our Twitter account. So I'm going to copy that like I would normally, compose a message, select my recipients. I want that to go to everyone so that they know about the Talking Points Twitter, and just paste it like normal. So in our system, it might not show up blue and underlined on your end, but when families receive it, it will be a clickable link and be able to click on whatever that is. And that brings me to another great point, which are YouTube videos. So because we do have a video limit that we can attach because of SMS carrier restrictions, one thing that we have been suggesting to families to do is to send links to YouTube videos. If you have a YouTube video where you've been uploading lessons or anything of that nature, you can go to YouTube. In this case, I am going to go to the Talking Points YouTube account, which is useful for all of you as well, because that is where we have uploaded our Getting Started with Talking Points webinars. So I can select this video. And that's me. Wow. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way, but I hate hearing the sound of my voice recorded. So I never watch these recordings. I just trust that my coworkers are watching them and that it's all going well. So I've copied and pasted the link to that YouTube, and I can select again who I want it to go to, and I can send it out. And one awesome thing that my coworker Aubrey has discovered as well is that in YouTube videos, you can actually caption them and put in subtitles. So if you have any families that are obviously speaking different languages, you can, as you're uploading them, select what languages you want the subtitles to be generated in. In this case, when we uploaded it, English was the only option. But when you upload your own videos, you can select different languages for those to be subtitled in so that families can receive them and read them in their own home languages, which is super awesome. Can everyone see the results of the polls or just teachers? Great question. So any results to polls that have been sent and any messages for that matter are only viewable to teachers. Just because a message has gone out to 40 families, all of those individually will come to parents and they will have no idea that it was sent to anyone else or that anyone else responded. So great question. Send a poll and have them reply by video. Unfortunately, no. If they send a poll and select a poll option, that is the only response that will come, but they can obviously select a video separate from that poll and have that be sent to you. And another thing that we want to go over to is, which I mentioned earlier, we do have allowance to add PDF files to Talking Points messages. Currently, those messages are not those documents, are not translated. We don't have the capability to translate PDF documents. But since you are likely communicating with families that speak lots of different languages, if you have any information in documents or PDFs that you want to send out, you can absolutely copy and paste those into different messages in Talking Points and send it out that way to ensure that all of your families are able to understand the questions and the assignments and the work that you're giving your students. And one other feature that I do want to highlight as well is our text-to-speech feature. So this is useful for families who maybe don't have any or limited literacy in their home language. So you can use this text-to-speech function, text-to-speech and talking points for parents, and they can have their messages read out to them by a voice in their own home languages. This is only available to families using the parent app. And so that brings me to a next point, which is we've had a lot of questions asking, how do I tell which families are using the app and which families are receiving text messages? So to view that information, you would click on one of your classes, Mr. Newton's class. And next to the particular names, you'll see whether it's listed as parent app or SMS. And that way you can tell which families are using which method of messaging. And if you know that Annalise's family is having some trouble reading the SMS text messages, you can recommend that they download the parent app. And one easy way to do that is to compose a message. Type in Annalisa. And we already have this pre-written message that will include the mobile app download here. But I don't really want to introduce myself because they know already who I am. So I'm going to say, hi, Miss Rico. Please download the Talking Points app so you can have your messages read to you. Download it here. And you can send that message to them and have them click on the link and download the app. And that will hopefully break down another barrier, an additional barrier that you might have to reaching your families. Yes, if a parent was using the app previously and they now switch and download the app, that will automatically be reflected in the class list. Great question. Great suggestion, Melissa. I see that Melissa says that she's attaching news stories about companies hiring and school announcements. Those are great ways to make sure that your families are receiving messages and staying up to date with news stories that they might not have available. Do you have a link to Talking Points in YouTube? Yes, so I will share the link here to our YouTube channel. I will send that in the chat so that everyone can go and watch the recording from the previous videos and any other tutorials that we have there. When you select a picture to share and send, Talking Points currently doesn't have integration like that with iPhone. Beverly, great question. So you won't be able to click a picture and then select to send it to Talking Points. In your application, let me actually show you how that works since I have my app pulled up. When you're composing messages, you can click on camera or gallery. So I am going to give Talking Points permission. Great. Allow while using app. And I want to send a picture of my adorable puppy who has been keeping me sane this time at home. And I want to send that to Mr. Newton's class only. And I can compose a message the same way. Hope that helps. I see a question about printing messages. That is a great strategy if you want to be able to keep track more easily of your communication that you're having with families. You can go into an individual message thread and click on those three dots and click on print conversation. And a PDF, you can select the date range if you wanted this to go from the beginning of the school year, from September to now. And if I wanted to include messages in the original language that they came in, if our messages are being translated, I can click print, and that will save me a PDF of the message history with that family so that you can print it and have it for your records. Great question. Is there a quick way to send messages to almost everyone instead of selecting each name separately? Yes, actually. So if you go into each individual class as well, you have these checkboxes here that you can click. You can either select to copy them to a separate class if you want those lunch group classes to go somewhere else, and you can click on message. So that will automatically open a message to those families. That unfortunately is only good for individual classes. So you can't select those 4 students and then 4 students in another class. So you will still have to do that class by class, but if you have only a couple classes, shouldn't take too long there. If you send a group message, do parents have access to other parental emails? No. As I mentioned, all messages that families receive will always appear to be one-on-one. Even if you sent it to 10 or to 200 families, they will only receive the messages that you have sent and respond to your messages directly. Are translated messages sent to parents also available to them in English? Absolutely. So I will go back to the phone here. But in this case, I will show you what the parent app actually looks like. We just did a revamp and updated our parent app so it has new content suggestions and has fun things for them to be able to do. So if you click on an individual message thread here with this family, they will be able to see the original message here, the original translation, and close it, just like you can see in your account as well. Great question there. If parents are using SMS, they do not need to be on internet. That is correct. And on your end, I don't believe that I demonstrated how to view the original translation, but if you are in a message thread with a family, and this works the same way on the Teacher mobile app, you can click on Show Translated Spanish and see the original message that families have sent, as well as the translation in English that you are received. And can you use the same phone number in the student contacts list? Yes, good question, Camille. So if I wanted my contact to receive messages, this one I believe is listed in Spanish, I could go back and create another contact with the same name and maybe English and select English as a language. If you try and do it, however, in the same contact here, if I added an additional contact with the same phone number and English, it would tell me that there already exists a contact with that same number. So you can't do it within the same contact, but you can create a separate point of contact and separate student in the list to add the same phone number with a different language. How do you set up a message if you have students with various messages? That's the beauty of Talking Points, is you don't have to. Any message that you compose to families, whether it be, again, to 39 or to just 4 families, will automatically translate into every single message, every single language that they prefer to receive messages in. So as long as when you have added them into the account, you selected the correct home language, that translation will happen automatically and you won't even have to think about it. Great question, Courtney. So Courtney is talking about our Help Me Understand feature. So I should let you know that there was a bug with translations recently. We have resolved that, and thank you so much for our teacher community for pointing that out. But if in this account you are confused about one of the messages that you receive, you can click on this Review by Human Translator, and that'll get sent back to one of our human translators so that they can take a second look at it. And once that message has been reviewed, normally happens within a day, you'll get this green smiley face here telling you that the message has been reviewed by a human, and the message will be updated to reflect a better translation. Yes, Crystal. So as I demonstrated earlier, when you click on Print Conversation, you can click to include messages in the original language. And I believe those are all of the tips and tricks that we had accumulated. Now I want to open up the floor to anyone who has tips and tricks that they want to share. This is please not the time for questions. If you have any questions, please continue to send them. But if anyone has any amazing suggestions on things that you've been doing to engage your families, please send them now, and I can unmute you to make sure that other teachers and educators can see it. I believe there's also a raise hand feature, so if you want to raise your hand and log in and tell us some of the amazing suggestions that you have been using with your families, now's the time. I'll give a couple more minutes in case anyone wants to muster up some courage. Miss Dillon. Nope, Miss Dillon lowered her hand. Oh, there we are. Alrighty, Miss Dillon, if you have suggestions. Hi, Miss Dillon. Thanks so much.
Hi.
So, do you
How
have
are
any
you?
suggestions? I'm doing good. What are your suggestions and tips and tricks that you want to share with our Talking Points teachers?
So I guess just like having scheduled messages that send out. So our school is closed until the 14th. So I just went through and scheduled messages out to all my parents for next week. And I set it at like a consistent time. And I think that's been really helpful. So they know at 11:30 every single day, they will be getting a message of some sort. And then I have been sharing links. So I think before, like I started using this app a couple years ago, and I noticed I put a link in, and it's pretty cool because the parents can just click it, and it goes right to where the link is connected to. So that's been helpful. And then I teach kindergarten, and I set up my TA. So she's a teacher's assistant in my room. So she actually has been sending out some messages to my kids as well to stay engaged.
Incredible. And
Those are
that
a
brings
few
me
things.
to a great point. Those are awesome suggestions. Thanks so much. Scheduling messages at a consistent time is definitely something that we've heard and seen success with, and that has been proven by researchers. So if families know that they are going to be expecting communication from you every day at this time or every other day, however you want to do it, it helps them build a routine, right? Like, as I mentioned earlier, being at home is a little bit tricky because everything is all kind of jumbled up. But if you on your end can build a routine for yourself and help families build a routine on their end, that'll make everyone's lives so much easier and make everyone feel like a little bit more structure is in their lives. And that brings me to a second really important point that Ms. Dillon shared, is that you can share your classes with other instructors. So if you have co-teachers or grade level teachers that you want to be able to access your same students, you can click on the class, click on share class, and invite other teachers, type in their names and emails, and invite them to use Talking Points. Whether or not they already have an account or they never have used it before, they'll receive an invitation to join your class so that they can message your students as well. Great. Thanks so much for your suggestions there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Alrighty. Anyone else have suggestions or tips and tricks that they want to share that have been successful with their families thus far? I see a couple things in the chat. Melissa says that she sends a different type of update every day. Monday, how much classwork they've completed the previous day. Tuesday, Duolingo. Progress. Wednesday, notes about the really good work that they've completed. And that is also a really great point there, is oftentimes I think educators view family communication as a way to give just general updates. But a lot of families love to receive praise and hear that their students are doing well and completing their classwork and really making progress. Those are the types of messages that really light families' days up. And you as a teacher, I'm sure, love sending them. You love to be able to praise your students and talk about the amazing things that they're doing. Just because you're not in the classroom with them anymore doesn't mean that they're not still doing incredible things here. So great suggestion there. How can you delete a message that has been sent out to an entire class by mistake? Good question. And we definitely understand the sentiment there, but unfortunately, once an entire class message has been sent out, families have probably already started to receive it, especially if they receive it by SMS text message. We don't have control over that, so we can't actually delete the message. Our suggestion there would be to send out a clarification and let families know that that was sent in error, and they shouldn't worry about it. Ooh, Julie, I'm going to unmute you, Julie, because I think you have a really great question there about using talking points for middle school students. Anyone else that has suggestions on how to use talking points for middle school students? Could you please, Julie, maybe tell us a little bit more about yourself and your class and the types of things that you've been doing so far, or the types of things that you would love some input from other teachers on?
Hi, I actually co-teach with some social studies teachers. I'm dual certified in ESL and social studies.
Fantastic.
And we're just starting to use talking points. One thing about engagement, I was just concerned about, especially with middle school students, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I don't want to bombard them because they have a lot to do each day.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't be doing it daily like perhaps a kindergarten teacher would, which is perfect for kindergarten, but just different ways to engage them without overwhelming them, and especially since it's kind of a strange time for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that is a very real problem and a very real question that you want to think through. I think the schedule messages feature will obviously still be very useful for you there. But one other thing that I want to go back and point out is that if your classes are shared with additional staff members, you can actually see the messages that have gone for, like this example is from a school that has set up their account as well. So you'll actually be able to see any messages that have gone out from additional staff members or the school to your students. So if any of your co-staff are using talking points as well, you should check in with them and make sure that you are viewing their messages too. I know one thing that you're concerned about, which is a very valid concern, is not overwhelming them. So that way you can pretty easily check in with your co-staff and see, oh, I see that the school already sent out this student a message today about something similar that I wanted to send. So maybe I want to hold off on that for the day. That way you can kind of set boundaries for yourself and for your families and make sure that you're not overwhelming them in any way. And I see that Deanna has a hand raised. Deanna, I will allow you to talk. Hopefully you have some suggestions for Julie that have been working for you. Hi, Deanna.
Okay, sorry, that was just a mistake when I had
got
that
it.
hand raised. Sorry.
No worries. Do you have any tips and tricks that have been working for you while we have you?
I've just been using talking points. This week has been our spring break, and I have newcomers in middle school, so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And so these are students that have very little English. And just to make sure the students know that we're still here and caring, we've just been sending out messages like, send us a picture of what you're doing today. Send us a picture of your pet. What are you doing today? What's your favorite thing you've done so far? Do you have any, and then of course checking in on if they have any questions for parents on their AMI packets and things like that.
Absolutely. Great suggestions there. Thanks, Deanna. And sorry to put you on the spot like that, but I figured once we had you. Thanks so much. And Julie, I do see a suggestion from Anne Marie in the chat, which I think is very relevant and very useful. So for middle school kids, they probably really want connection right now. So Anne Marie suggests having them send you a clip of them doing a TikTok dance. So I'm not sure if any of you know what TikTok is.
Yeah.
I am not personally on TikTok, but I do know a lot of my younger nieces and nephews are. So and thankfully TikTok is only 10 seconds. So that definitely fits within the 5 megabyte limit. And I think if your teacher asked you to send you a clip of doing a TikTok dance, students would go head over heels and be so excited by that. So that is a great suggestion. Thanks so much, Anne Marie.
Great, thank you.
And Beverly also suggests another school post trivia questions or riddles of the day. So sometimes that is related to something that has been taught. Sometimes it's just fun. But that is a great way to use the poll function as well. So doing kind of trivia questions and quizzes, but engaging. Great. Amazing. Great. And I see another great response from Melissa, not as much a suggestion, but you can turn that into a suggestion, is some older students, middle school and high school, are likely experiencing a lot of feelings right now. I know I am. It's definitely an adjustment, and having them know that you're there for them and just sending something like, I'm here if you want to talk. Melissa said that one of her seniors just wanted to talk today, and any contact is appreciated. And I think that's definitely true of teachers in contact with students and families, but also us in contact with each other. I know that human interaction is probably limited right now, so making sure that your students and families know that you're there for them and that they can talk to you about anything and whenever, that you'll be there to talk. And so thanks so much for that suggestion, Melissa. And I am going to mute you, Julie, but hopefully those are some suggestions that you'll find useful. We are at Talking Points committed to providing resources for you and going to continue to provide resources. So before I transfer to any other suggestions, I do want to point out that on our website, we have been compiling a list of resources that includes the link to all of the recorded videos that we've done and additional resources that we've been receiving from our educational community. So when you go to talkingpts.org, you'll see at the very top this banner that we are offering free access to education resources. And then if you click Learn More, you'll be able to find a whole list of resources that we've compiled. The first is that we are offering Talking Points for schools and districts for free to high need schools and districts to the end of the school year. So if that is interesting to you or your school administrators and district administrators, please have them fill out this form. The second, again, are these wonderful webinars that we've been doing and are going to continue to do, I shall note, for the upcoming weeks, since we know, again, human interaction is really important right now, and having the tips and tricks and all of the tools in your tool belt has never been more important. Then best practices for remote learning. Those are a lot of the tips and tricks that we've shared here, as well as other questions and other resources that we've gotten from our educational community. Anna asked a question about high schoolers and middle schools using students' numbers or only contacting with parents. So I should point out that generally Talking Points is dedicated to family engagement. So that is usually teacher to parent communication. We do understand that a lot of those high schoolers, their parents might not be as involved, or they might be more independent. They're telling their students, hey, you got it, handle it. On that note, we don't prohibit students from being added to accounts, but due to legal regulations, we do have a regulation in place that students have to be over the age of 13 to communicate with you directly. I'm sure you can understand why that's in place. That's just as a precaution. But if you wanted to add your middle schoolers or high schoolers' phone numbers directly, we're not going to prohibit that at all, but do so up to your own discretion, of course. Does anyone else have any last tips and tricks that you want to share out before we end this lovely webinar? It's been so great having you all here. But I do want to give any other time for any community members to share tips and tricks that you might have up your sleeve. I do not see any hand. Great. Oh, thank you so much, Camille. That is a lovely compliment. How can we know if the phone numbers that you have are your parents or students? Talking Points directly won't show you that. We just verify whether or not it's a cell phone number. But one great way to test that would be to text the phone number and ask whether or not this is the parent or whether it's the student. Hopefully they will respond to that and you'll know that way, Irene. I do see your question, Kate, about Talking Points in comparison to Class Dojo. I unfortunately am not an expert on Class Dojo. I'm an expert on Talking Points, so I can't give a whole lot of credit there. But I do know that teachers that we've heard of have had great success with both. I think the functionality Talking Points is, as I mentioned, mostly aimed at parent communication. I believe Class Dojo more easily incorporates student communication with younger students. That's the main difference that we're aware of, but won't touch on that too much. Could the students join with a code so that you don't see their phone number? All communication on Talking Points is through phone number, so even if they join with a class code that we do make available, you will still see their phone number once they're added into the account. But good question, Teresa, and I like the way you're thinking as that workaround. Is there a limit for words in a text message? So there's not a limit for words, but there are a limit of 320 characters. And that limit was put into place because, again, of cell carrier restrictions, especially for families who are receiving SMS text message. Sometimes longer text messages can get broken up into bad orders and make it really hard for them to understand. The shorter the message, obviously the better, but we have limited that to 320 characters to make sure that the translations and the messages are understandable. But if you for any reason need to send longer messages than that, feel free to break your message up into chunks and send multiple messages with talking points, and we will make sure on our end that they get there in the right order. Yes, great question, Jeanette. So if the phone number is not a cell phone, Talking Points will in fact let you know, and I will show you how. So if you click on the class again, if it's not a phone number, instead of SMS or parent app, it will tell you invalid, or it'll be red and say landline. So because we communicate mainly through SMS text messaging and cell phone numbers, our system will flag if that number is incorrect so that you can follow up with the family and hopefully update it. And thank you all so much for joining. It seems like things are generally wrapping up. But I really appreciate all of you taking this time, and to our few presenters, Deanna, Julie, and Ms. Dillon, who spoke up with some tips and tricks and questions. Really supporting you to support your families is our main goal during this time and throughout the rest of the school year. So we hope that you find some really amazing ways to use Talking Points. And if you do something that you realize, wow, that was fantastic, my students and my families loved it, please share it with us or share it on our Twitter. We're collecting all of these tips and tricks, and we want to make sure that all of our community has access to it. So thank you so much for being a part of our wonderful Talking Points community. We're all in this together, and we're all working together to make life for our students and families the best as we can. So thanks all so much for being here, and I look forward to leading another webinar. On that note as well, if you have any suggestions for topics that you would like to see in a webinar, please send them into the chat, and I'll leave the meeting open for a couple minutes so that you can send those in. We're definitely taking suggestions. We're definitely leading more webinars, and would love to hear from you all of some things that you might want to delve deeper into. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good weekend.